A demigod is defined as being with particular or lesser divine status, such as a minor deity, the offspring of a god and a mortal, or a mortal raised to divine rank. Heracles was one of the greatest demigods to ever exist, receiving the greatest honour possible, a Disney 1997 American animated musical fantasy comedy film they called Hercules. To achieve this glorious award, Hercules had to complete 12 tasks. The slaying of the Nemean lion whose skin he wore afterwards, the slaying of the 9-headed Hydra, the capture of the elusive stag of Arcadia, the capture of the wild boar of Mount Eremianes, I can't pronounce that word, the cleansing of the cattle stables in a mere day, the shooting of the monstrous man-eating birds, the capture of the mad bull that terrorised the island of Crete, the capture of the man-eating mares, the taking of the girdle, I don't know what that is, but it sounds impressive, the seizing of the cattle of the free-bodied giant, the bringing back of the golden apples kept at the world's end, and finally the fetching up from the underworld of the triple-headed dog Cerberus, guardian of its gates. Heracles was born in what we would call ancient Greece. Noticeably, as ancient, it was a long time ago. Heracles is not alone in this, as demigods are no longer, being replaced by the next step in human evolution. What is this, you may be asking? Demigender. That's right, that was just an introduction. Demigender is an umbrella term for non-binary gender identities. The reference to demigods is, of course, not being a gender. That is the essential characteristics. It's not quite a gender, but it's getting there. Similar to Heracles, as he was not quite a god, but later did become a god after being killed. Poison, I believe, was the final thing, which would get you in hindsight. Demigender is an umbrella term for non-binary gender identities that feel a partial but not fully connection to a particular gender. Anyone can be demigender, regardless of what gender they were assigned at birth. And demigender individuals may identify as another gender in combination with their demigender identity. It's very much like Pokemon, if you've ever played it. You'll have fire types, you'll have grass types, but you can also have fire and grass types. In this situation, you can have demigenders, and then you can have male. These two combined to I'd imagine, strengthen the weaknesses, therefore you take 2 times damage, and strengths, therefore you deal 2 times damage to specific types. Obviously, we'll start with the flag, as I do like flags. I think it's great. I think it really sells the demi aspects. Obviously, when you think of demi, you think of demigods, which of course is why I spoke of demigods a bit earlier. However, the flag is of what I would consider to be Greek colours. Even though the modern day Greek flag is blue and white, the yellow gives almost heavenly feel, with the greys feeling very much so like the stone of Olympus. I don't know if it's entirely true, it could just be optical illusion, but the white between the 2 yellows appears to be a little bit yellow. Of course, again, could be an optical illusion, but if this is the case, then it is genius, as if you have seen the 1997 film Hercules, you will note that Olympus was represented as very yellow, with bright yellow light, sorry. So I think the flag perfectly represents an Olympus theme, and if this was the flag of Olympus, I think it would work very well. However, as shown by the definition, this has nothing to do with being gods, merely the demi, as in the lesser ranking of gods. So it doesn't really fit. If you ignore the fact that demi is often referred to as demigods in pop culture, it does not fit very well. I have no doubt it will explain the colours later. However, give another definition, explanation of flags, I'm not holding up too much hope. But as this flag stands alone from demigender, I would have to say it's really good. I do like that flag. I feel like they could have done a cross, not an English cross, a Nordic cross perhaps. I feel like that would fit very well. But as the lines, stripes are very boring and they're very common in LGBT communities, it's getting a little repetitive. But the colours are glorious, I love it. The gender itself, well, we'll see. Its classification is a gender identity on the spectrum of transgender, non-binary. Now that's interesting. I think I mentioned this earlier of the prior gender, which looked like the dream flag. Transgender being an umbrella. I don't believe they even know what transgender means, because transgender is transitioning. You go from man to woman. It's the transitioning period between the two. Of course, a lot of people now believe that it is the second you change, you are classed as transgender. I think that's a worse definition of transgender, but it's all made up anyway. So, if it is the mainstream definition, then I suppose it'll suffice. But I feel like it loses a lot of the meaning, as transgender obviously meant transitioning gender. But I suppose it could be changed to transitioned gender, though I feel it loses a lot of oomph. The etymology is demigender is derived from the prefix demi, meaning half or partially. The prefix is derived from Old French word demi, meaning half, which was derived from the Latin word dimidius. A little etymology lesson for you. I always love the etymology parts, where words come from. Latin is a very commonplace, but I suppose in the Western world we would be speaking a lot of Latin, as Roman Empire did have a lot to do with that. Community. Identities under the umbrella. Demigender identities include but are not limited to those below. Oh, we've got even more umbrella. So this is an umbrella term within an umbrella term. We're getting matrix here. Demigirl, a person who is partially girly, someone who partially but not entirely identifies as a woman or otherwise feminine. This is similar to feminine non-binary people. Just a woman, okay? That does just seem to be a simplified definition, as that was very, very elongated. Somebody who identifies as a woman, but not entirely. Demi-boy, I suspect this will be similar, but role reversal. A person who is partially boy, actually. I didn't cast this out. Partially girl. I don't think you can be partially... Can you? Partially orange. Well, no, orange would be a colour. Partially grape. No, it would have to be partially grape-like. So yeah, this isn't proper English. It should be partially boy-like. Or partially masculine. Not partially boy, but I'm getting stuck on pedantics. Someone who partially but not entirely identifies as a man or otherwise masculine. This is similar to masculine non-binary people. I love how on like Wikipedia's you get people asking for source. I like how they're trying to fact check it. This is quite comedic. Obviously they say this is similar to feminine non-binary, masculine non-binary people. I'd be interested if it expands on the differences between the two, as frankly I can't see any. Though I suppose they'd just return with the classic, well, it's the same thing but not to the same degree, which feels like a cop-out, but we'll let them go. Demi-fluid, a person whose gender is fluid through other demigenders, a person with multiple genders, some static and some fluid. So basically, you can't quite make your mind up. You switch between the two on a daily basis. Well, maybe not daily, but on a fairly common basis. Demi-flux, a person who has multiple genders, some static and some fluctuating in intensity. Is that not just the same thing? Demi-fluid and demi-flux seem to just be the same thing. I will say it does gain points for having subcategories within it. I believe that is very interesting, and we get to the flag. The Demigender Pride flag has 7 stripes, 2 outer stripes in grey, 2 in lighter grey, and 2 in yellow, with one white stripe in the centre. Okay, so it does say white stripe, so the middle is not a light yellow, which I think is a shame, but I suppose it fits. But it is thought that the varying shades of there is no widely confirmed meaning. Oh, that's a cop-out. But it is thought that the varying shades of grey may represent different levels of genderlessness. Genderlessness, I love that word. And the partial connection to a certain gender. The white may represent all genders, as it does in the non-binary flag, and the yellow may represent non-masculine and non-feminine genders. So it's actually not known why the flag is the way it is. I would actually reject that explanation and insert my own, as I said prior, giving the appearance of the 1997 Hercules movie, with the yellow clouds, the grey buildings. I suppose they were more whitish, but it would still stand, and I do believe that's more of the reason than what is stated here, as it feels more like this is thought afterwards. Like they made the flag, made it look cool, and then thought, oh, hang on, how does this mean anything? And came up with a reasoning afterwards, which I don't particularly like, but I suppose if they needed it to mean something. All good flags have meanings, effectively. Other common variations of the demigender flag include the demi-girl pride flag, demi-boy pride flag, and demi-fluid pride flag. Noticeably, no demi-flux pride flag. Oh, wait, no, never mind. I got a bit ahead of myself. Except the yellow stripes are instead replaced with... Oh, the meanings are assumed to be the same as the demigender flag, except it's a tongue twister. It really is. There's that many demis. The yellow stripes are replaced with pink, blue, and yellow stripes. The pink stripes in the demigirl flag symbolise femininity, while the male stripes represent blue. Other way around. It is assumed that the gradient pink, yellow, and blue stripes in the demi-fluid flag represent fluidity between feminine, masculine, and non-binary genders. There is also the demi-flux flag, which appears to be a combination of all three. Reading these is surprisingly difficult, as not only are their sentences very long, but they also make no feasible sense. Like, you did not need to have that many demis in that sentence. It was very difficult to verbalise. Distinction. Agender, main article agender. Agender and demigender are both under the non-binary umbrella. It feels like most genders are under that umbrella, so I feel like that's going to be a common occurrence throughout this series. But there are differences between the two identities. Agender people... Oh, so these are the differences. Okay, alright, now these are my favourite part, because there's no difference. There is none, they just like to pretend there are. But there are differences between the two identities. Agender people typically feel like they have no gender at all, with some defining their gender as being neither a man nor a woman. Demigender people, on the other hand, still feel a partial connection to certain genders and may feel tied to being a man or a woman in some way, like demigirls. I love that, in some way. We don't know which way yet, it's just, some way, could not. We don't know. Like demigirls and demiboys. Okay, I'm going to be honest, because demigender alone, it sounds pretty alright. Demigirls and demiboys sounds a bit dodgy. I feel like demi-woman and demi-man might feel a bit better, but still, that's... The fact that they're infantilized, I don't know the word, but you know what I mean, is a little dodgy, and certainly shows a more unpleasant feel, though that could entirely just be a mischaracterization. It is also worth noting, I don't believe this is on purpose at all, but the demi-flux pride flag, I was looking at it and I thought to myself, hang on the topic of infantilizing things, that looks very similar. And those colours are the exact, the pink, yellow, blue, are the exact same colours that are on the the map flag, which obviously, if you don't know, map is effectively a nice way of saying, can I say it? Pedophile. I said it anyway. Obviously, when they try getting the LGBT community, they create their own flag to be a member of the club, and those are the colours they picked. The order's a bit wrong. Blue should be on top, pink should be on bottom, but that is a little bit alarming, and I feel like you might want to keep an eye on that. Certainly with the demi-girls and demi-boys. However, this all could just be a pure coincidence, which is certainly likely and probable in hindsight. However, because demigender people may identify as another gender in combination with demigender, a demigender person can still partially identify with the agender identity. So, they're different, but you can identify as both. Like I said earlier, it's very much a mixed type, dual typing, effectively. Therefore, you get the strengths of both genders, though you also get the negatives of both genders. So this might be competitively viable if you're willing to do it in a tournament strategy. I feel like this could be useful. Gender fluid and demigender are both considered non-binary. I feel like all of them are going to say this, so I might stop mentioning that part. But gender fluidity often gets confused with being demigender. Demifluid, gender fluid, geez, there's so many, it's the same word, just spelled differently. People may feel like their gender fluctuates and changes over, causing them, oh, hang on, what's happened here? Completely gone too far. Oh, yeah, no, we've completely messed up this. There. Causing them to move between different genders. They can feel like a certain gender one day and another gender the next day. Demigender people, however, are always tied in some way to a particular gender, while other aspects of their gender identity may be fluid or in flux. Now, the problem with this, of course, is that the comparison wouldn't be gender fluid and demigender, it would be demi-fluid, if that makes sense. Since demi-fluid does just seem to be demi-fluid. Gender fluid, sorry, this is very difficult to say because they're all the same words, just with moved around slightly. So demi-fluid seems to be the exact same as gender fluid, whereas demigender is stationary and gender fluid is not. It's just chaos, anarchy. Demisexual, and I'm going to be honest, I read that as dreamsexual initially. I can't wait till we get to that episode. Demisexual and demigender, although they share the same prefix, are two completely different terms. Demisexual is a sexual orientation, while demigender is a gender identity. If that is the only difference, then I feel like calling them completely different is a little manipulative or misleading. A demisexual person is someone who does not experience sexual attraction to others until they form a strong emotional bond with someone first. Even though these terms are not related, someone who is demigender may also be demisexual, and vice versa. We've got some links here. LGBTQIA terminology. What does demi-girl mean? Information to help you be an ally. Trans language primer, agender, and a trans language premiere. Oh, cosmopolitan. I saw that. I didn't miss that. So, this is now where we normally go through my overview of the gender. The flag is once again good. I like the flag. I feel like my hypothesis about the meaning behind it is a lot more accurate than the proposed meaning. I feel like they tried too much to make it relevant to the gender, when really I think it all lies in the demi aspect. But I've spoke about that. So the flag is good. I like it. One of the best. Now I will mention with the flags, because obviously the last one was also good as well. The flags are only getting reviewed first because I like the way they look. Because on the website you scroll down, you see the different flags, and then you see the genders. I pick the best looking flags. So as we progress, the flags are going to get progressively worse and worse, which is why we're dealing with the two best ones so far. The gender. I don't like the gender. I feel like Although it serves a purpose, I suppose in the New World Order it would serve a purpose. Though obviously demi-fluid and demi-influx, I've already forgotten it. They're rubbish. We don't need them. Just scrap those two. Demigirl and demi-boy sounds a bit noncy. Could probably change them to demi-man and demi-woman. But overall, I feel like this is one of the better ones. Is it needed? Not really. But then again, I doubt many of these will be. So I'm going to give it... I don't know if we rated the last one. But if we did rate the last one, I'm going to give this a solid 8. This is getting an 8 from me. Probably one of the best we're going to go so far. A mixture of the flag and the fact that I suppose it would serve a purpose. And yeah, that's about it. I don't actually have an outro so far. So, ta-ra.